Welcome in, folks, to another episode of the Old North State Sports Show. Folks, we are back, of course, as always, with more Panthers content, college football content. Got a lot to talk about with the potential expansion of the college football playoff, but that's going to be coming another day. More news trickling in for the Carolina Panthers. And hey, if you would like to be a part of the show, we've got the number on the screen, 910-679-6927. We had our first caller leave a voice message. I'm going to be pulling that together this week to get it on an episode. Without further ado, though, let's jump right into the news around Tee Higgins. So it's being reported that the Bengals plan to use the franchise tag on Higgins. And you know what? TBD, what this means for Tee Higgins, what it means for the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, I say I'm bringing you bad news. But let's go back to last year. Just a year ago, the Carolina Panthers used the franchise tag on Brian Burns, and then they eventually traded him. And of course, he got his new contract with the New York Giants. To me, that is absolutely a possibility still. Now, if you're holding out odds and betting and hope, I don't know that this thing will work out potentially the way that we want. The bad situation about him being franchise tagged, though, is you have to give something up. Whereas if he's a free agent, he goes wherever he wants. He gets his money. We're back in a situation with the Carolina Panthers trying to find a number one wide receiver. And that's why when you look at this and think about the future and like, are you, Garrett Wilson seems to be content. Do you look at a Chris Godwin? And I know that's not the sexiest option available on the market. He's coming off of an injury. But if you can't get a Garrett Wilson, if you choose to go edge in the draft with the first pick or some form of defense, you kind of leave yourself limited there. And so you may have to go with the Godwin and try to, pick up and recoup what you can. Still think you may address wide receiver with pick number 8. So we'll find out. Also, man, our good friend Chuba Hubbard spoke to the Canadian press. For those who don't know, he's from Canada. So I'm sure he's hopefully enjoying the offseason up there. Had a nice quote here. You can go read the full article. I posted it on X. Referring back to this past season and the improvement or the growth that he saw. And he said, I think a big thing this year was the team overall moving in the right direction. Every NFL player, everybody in my position would have similar goals, but just to win games, make the playoffs, and win a championship. I feel like all the other type of individual goals and things like that kind of come when you're chasing those things. And isn't that positive news? There's a lot of conversations in Panthers Nation right now around year 2 for Dave Canales, year 2 for Dan Morgan. What are your expectations heading into next year? And some folks are like, well, he got 5 games this year. We look around the NFL. Why can't we be like other teams that have figured it out in 1 year? So it's a fair question. And for us, I think we should start to push for playoffs because it's been so long. But I also want to caveat that I was looking back today, and I don't have a graphic for it, but looking back over, I think it was the last 4 drafts for the Carolina Panthers. Do you know, I think they drafted 29 total players. Out of that bunch, 15 are still on the team. 14 of those players are elsewhere. You can't miss on 50% of your draft picks. You just can't do it and expect to win in the NFL. So when I look at the microscope of Dave Canales and Dan Morgan, I think it's a 3-year plan. People don't want to hear that, but I say a 3-year plan to be competitive if we're going to get to winning the entire NFC, and that's a big hurdle to jump through. So we start small. I think pushing for the playoffs, pushing for the NFC South is where we want to see this team. Now, we've talked about the Panthers' offseason moves, coaching changes on the defensive side of the ball. We've seen changes on the staff itself. Now we've got another one coming through as reported by Joe Person of The Athletic. So the Panthers have moved on from head strength and conditioning coach Jeremy Scott. That is not who is pictured here, and plan to hire Vikings director of performance Josh Hinkst in the same role, according to a league source. And you can see this, in fact, is Josh. Prior to his 4 seasons with the Vikings, He was the strength and conditioning coach from 2013 to 2020 in Philadelphia, where he won a Super Bowl ring and played a major role in the implementation of one of the NFL's first data-driven training systems. That's positive news. You're talking about an overhaul with your training staff, an overhaul with performance, and you have to think back to the player report cards. We keep talking about those. Panthers low on a lot of metrics, and so we look at the new facility that's going to be built. It's not going to be anything close to what it would have been in Rock Hill. We know that, but maybe a step above in the facilities that you're going to have there for training camp, for regular season, right there, headquartered in Charlotte. Again, nowhere near what it could have been or would have been, but we'll bypass, and you, of course, have the indoor facility as well, which I'm sure players will appreciate. So another nice addition to the staff. And speaking of additions or subtractions in that case, Matt Hurney is done in Washington. So Matt Hurney is no longer, he was with the Washington Commanders, has been reported by The Athletic. He was in an advisor role for the team last season. His contract expired after 24. Remember, he went up there with Ron Rivera. Very successful. I've seen folks tease out, can we hire him in an advisory role? He did a really good job drafting in the first round. He knew how to at least scout and develop and pick that talent. So I'm right there with Panthers fans that may want to lean into that. I don't think it's going to happen. I think maybe he actually wants to retire now and go on from there. But we'll see. So anyways, folks, the only other thing I'll plug as we close out this episode is, hey, please hit the subscribe button. But also there's a ton of content. We're talking 7 or 8 videos in the queue coming up every single day this week. Player profiles, talking about wide receivers, different positions, the history of the Carolina Panthers and drafting wide receivers. There's a lot. And also, I really want you guys to get engaged with the show. We're going to bring the live show back very shortly. But until then, drop a voice message. I'm going to compile them this week. If we get multiple, hopefully we do, and start to put together an episode to talk through it. But as always, folks, this is Carolina Dad. Y'all have a good one.